Hey, in today's video, I'm going to give you 5 tips for playing better tennis on grass courts or on any fast surface. And as well as these 5 tips, I'm going to give you some simple drills and exercises that can help you to achieve them. Now, pretty much all of these tips are also going to help you on other surfaces too. So if you're not due to play on grass anytime soon, I still think you're going to get something from this video. So stay tuned, let's get into it. Now, before getting into the tips, it's important to know the characteristics of playing on a grass court or any fast surface. The reason a surface is classed as fast is due to the ball's bounce. Generally on grass, the ball bounces much lower than it would on a hard court or a clay court, meaning that the ball spends less time in the air, so you have less time to react to that low bounce. Which leads us on to tip number 1, which is to stay low. Generally speaking, when you're playing tennis on a grass court or on a fast surface, you want to be much lower than you would be on a slower surface. By getting yourself lower, you're going to be more stable and able to change direction quickly for that fast oncoming ball, but also it's going to make it much easier for you to prepare your racket underneath the height of the ball so that you can still hit up and through the shot. One thing that you can do to ensure that you're low is to try to get your head beneath the usual height of your shoulders. Get yourself in this low athletic position ready for the oncoming ball. The second tip comes down to your court position when playing on grass, and you should try to stay much tighter to the baseline than you would on any other surface. If you watch when professionals play on clay courts or on slow hard courts, you'll see them sitting much further back. This is for 2 main reasons. Number 1, the ball bounces much higher, so they need that extra space for the ball to bounce up. And 2, taking the ball early doesn't have as much of a reward on slower surfaces. On grass, however, if you can step up to the baseline and take your shots early, not only are you going to stop yourself from getting caught out by those low short balls, but you're also going to capitalize on opportunities when you can step down the court. When playing on a fast surface, taking your opponent's time away really reaps its rewards. A simple exercise that you can do to help you to stay tight to the baseline when you're training or competing is to actually mark out a zone behind the baseline. What I like to do is put a line of throwdown lines 1 meter behind the baseline, and when playing practice points, I'm not allowed to step back behind that line. This forces you to stand your ground and to take the ball earlier, which is really helpful when playing on grass. Tip number 3 is more of a tactical or mindset shift, and it's to try to keep your points short when playing on grass. You'll often hear commentators talk about first strike tennis, and this is vital on grass courts. First strike tennis is looking for the first opportunity to put your opponent under pressure. Generally speaking, this can be done within your first 2 shots. The reason you want to play more aggressively on a fast surface than on a slow surface is when you take the ball early and you hit that ball faster, it's going to stay low and it's going to really limit your opponent's time. So this slightly higher risk strategy comes with higher rewards as well. If you try to play in this game style on a slow surface, quite often those big shots that you hit are going to sit up nicely in your opponent's hitting zone and won't have the effect they would have on a fast grass court. So a couple of ways that you can practice to improve your first strike tennis is to practice your serve +1 patterns. I've actually made a video on this specific topic. I'll pop the link to that in the description below. But the basis of this strategy is to plan where you're going to hit your serve and to be super prepared to put the next ball into the open court or behind your opponent. The same goes for your return +1. It's really important that you start the point well on a grass court. This really does link back to tip number 2 when we're talking about staying close to the baseline, because the tighter you are to the baseline, the easier it is for you to capitalize on any opportunity that arises. Once the point starts, if you've gone past the first 2 shots in the point, you still need that first strike mentality. You should be hunting for any opportunities. It might be that your opponent has a slightly shorter ball, a weaker ball, or you see them stretched. That is your cue to get in, close the court down, and even come into the net. Serve and volley is a great strategy on grass, as is hitting a slice and following it in, which leads us onto tip number 4. So we've spoken about a physical element with staying low when playing on a fast court, and we've mentioned tactical changes like staying tight to the baseline or keeping the point short. Tip number 4 is more of a technical tip, and it's to keep your swings more compact than you would on a slower surface. This is quite simply down to the amount of time you have to prepare for each shot. With that ball staying low and coming in much quicker, you don't have as much time to do your normal swing. So by making your swings more compact, it's going to allow you to find a much sweeter contact on each shot. Now, not only is this going to help you to save time on those fast oncoming balls, but when playing on grass or on any natural surface, you do occasionally get the odd funny bounce. And that's even the case when you look at the perfect courts at Wimbledon. So if you've prepared with a big backswing and that ball bounces slightly out of the position that you expect it to bounce into, it's going to be quite hard for you to change your swing path. However, if you do have a slightly more compact backswing, when that ball pops into a slightly different direction, it's going to be much easier for you to adapt your racket position. Generally speaking, this is a really good tip for any return of serve on any court surface, but especially when playing on a fast surface, you want to consider this on most of your ground strokes. Of course, if your opponent hits a slow floaty ball and you've got plenty of time to accelerate, we know that hitting the ball fast is super effective on a fast surface, but most of the time you're going to have less time than usual, so having a slightly more compact swing is only going to help you. One of the best ways that you can practice swinging with a more compact backswing is to get your hitting partner to fire some big serves down at you. By giving you less time, you're going to have to naturally adapt to this situation, and the best way to do that is with that short backswing. If you want high volume, you can get your partner to serve from the service line, and this will really limit your time. So the fifth tip is a little bit of a tactical tip, and it's to use your slice and your flat shots more often, and to use your topspin shots less often. Now it links back to what we were talking about before when playing on clay courts. Heavy topspin is super effective, as hitting topspin emphasizes the height of that high bounce that you get on a clay court. But if you try to hit your topspin shots on a grass court, the low bounce of the grass is going to neutralize those shots and most often sit up nicely for your opponent. So that's where hitting a slice is going to be more effective. As the slice naturally bounces lower, the grass is going to exaggerate that, making it really tough for your opponent. The same goes for hitting flat shots. When you hit a flat backhand or a flat forehand, that ball is going to penetrate through the grass much quicker, being really awkward for your opponent to return. Yes, this does mean that you're going to have to play with smaller margin for error, as you're going to have to aim lower over the net. But as we mentioned before, points on grass courts are much shorter, as players are generally looking for that first strike. An extra tip that I didn't mention, which probably fits under first strike tennis, is to try to utilize serve and volley if that's something that you can do. And if it's something that you don't feel confident with, then practice it, as serve and volley really puts your opponent under pressure. So they were 5 simple tips for playing better tennis on the grass. You don't have to think of all of them at once, however they all link in together quite well. So try to think about 1 or maybe even 2 of them during your next practice and you should see improvements. And also give some of those exercises a try. Get your partner to serve to you from the service line to really limit your time and to shorten your backswing. And try putting a few throwdown lines down at the back of the court to try to help you to stay tight to the baseline. Anyway, a big thank you for watching all the way through to the end of the video. If you haven't done so yet, I'd love it if you'd consider subscribing. Take care.